Time to spill the deets, the Spiritborn deets. Last week, the Diablo team invited me to be among the first to test out the new Spiritborn class. They gave me a little sneak peek inside the whole facility, the whole studio. I was out at Irvine at their Blizzard campus, which is massive. The whole Blizzard campus is insanely big. They have a whole street for themselves, which is insane. They basically gave me a 2 to 3 hour session to capture my gameplay and to test everything Spiritborn. So I wanted to share that with you guys as an exclusive little sneak peek here. And big thank you to the Diablo team for this opportunity and for sponsoring this video. The lore of the Spiritborn class is really, really interesting. We're definitely going to know more going forward. This isn't going to be a lore video or anything, but the lore of the Spiritborn is very, very interesting and ties really well to the whole Diablo universe. And I'm super excited to learn a little bit more when they showcase a little bit more about the lore. But today we're talking about the Spiritborn, kind of how it plays and the different skill trees and just how it functions. Okay, so the main 4 pillars of the Spiritborn are these spirit avatars. So you got Jaguar, you got Centipede, you got Gorilla, and you got Eagle. Okay, and to run you through kind of how all these spirit avatars work. Jaguar is super, super fast, high DPS, fire damage, kind of like really, really bursty, really, really quick. That's kind of what I resonated with. That's what I played the most, honestly. You'll see a lot of footage probably of me playing the Jaguar, just zipping and dashing around. There's the Centipede. Centipede's more poison, more like leech and like kind of lifesteal with potential crowd control. Centipede seemed really, really strong. It kind of reminded me of like a poison druid in a way. Then there's the Gorilla. The Gorilla is like very, very, it's like protection focused, right? The Gorilla I could see being like high Thorns build or something. They have a really cool ability called Payback. And you can basically get an aspect for that ability and be able to do your Thorn damage back in a wave. So it's kind of like more of like a high barrier, very defensive, very tanky, you hit me, I'm going to hit you back 10 times harder kind of thing. Eagle is the last one, and Eagle's kind of fun. Eagle is, does a lot of vuln damage, has a lot of mobility, does lightning damage. It can be focused on single, but it can also be focused on AoE. And the beauty of all 4 of these spirit avatars is you're not locking yourself into just one. So you can lock yourself into one spirit avatar if you want. Like I locked myself in at the start of the gameplay, the first like 30 minutes to an hour, I played just Jaguar. But the presets that Blizzard kind of gave me, they kind of all mixed and matched. Jaguar can mix with Eagle really well, but you can also mix it with Gorilla and Centipede. You can mix every single spirit avatar together, which is really, really fun. I think you'd be spreading yourself a little thin if you did that, but you could do it. You certainly can do it. So Jaguar and Eagle seem to be a pretty good combo. Jaguar is really, really fast, is very reliant on something called Ferocity. Ferocity is giving you a bunch of attack speed stacks, which is amazing because it could stack with attack speed. So you can just have unbelievable speeds. So Jaguar is more of attack speed, and then Eagle has a lot of crit chance. Comboing those two obviously is a no-brainer. So I tested that a little bit as well. And then you could test Jaguar, Gorilla if you need barrier. Maybe you want to use the conceited aspect or something to capitalize on the barrier, stuff like that. Honestly, this class can be played pure basic attack in any single spirit avatar, which is really, really fun. I kind of messed around with it and I saw a bunch of different aspects. There was one that changed your damage, that it gave you a stacking damage increase every time you used a different type of basic attack. So if you used a Jaguar basic and then a Gorilla and then a Centipede and you were kind of bouncing between the 3 or 4, your damage would just keep stacking up. So it's going to be really interesting to see how people mix all the spirit avatars, or if they stay in 1 or they stay in 2 or 3. But the beauty of every single one of these spirit avatars is they're going to play at a pretty fast pace no matter what. Your basic attacks kind of remind me of a monk almost from Diablo 3, where you're kind of dashing to the target. All these basic attacks can do that. A lot of the attacks have dashes. A lot of the attacks have movement. So even if you're playing a Gorilla, which is protection focused, which is more like defensive, you can easily mix in mobility. Like you're going to have no problem with any way you play the Spiritborn class to get mobility. We only got a couple hours, so we couldn't really dive deep into trying to min-max the aspects on our gear. So what I did really quickly is I tried to get straight into a Helltide, go pure Jaguar, and just farm as many drops as possible so I can go back to town and put aspects on my gear. So that's what I did, and I managed to get some decent aspects in there. There's a lot of sweet aspects that are gonna make the class feel really, really fun and diverse. To me, the Spiritborn is like a compilation of all of the team's skills of making all of these other classes and kind of just combining it into one. It's interesting because the class feels so unique. It almost makes you think, like, will it feel out of place because it's so insanely well done and crafted? That was my first thought. I was like, dude, this is going to feel out of place. But then when you play it, you can tell that it fits right into that Diablo world, like, really, really well. It's going to feel no different when you're seeing a Necro and a bunch of their skellies and golems running around and you're seeing them throw, you know, the spikes, right? It's going to be no different than seeing that. It's going to be no different than seeing a Sork coming in and just dropping a bunch of meteors and pulling everything together. It's going to be no different than seeing a Barbarian flying in and whirlwinding, right? Every class in Diablo has their identity. And even though the identity of the Spiritborn is so insane because they did such a good job with the animations, the art style, just cooking everything, you'd think it'd be out of place, but no, it fit really, really well into the world. When it comes to the skill tree of all of these spirit avatars, it gets a little interesting because every time you choose a spirit avatar, you could basically do your class quest similarly to like a druid, I guess, where a druid can choose the different boons, and they could be like eagle, and they choose a buff from eagle, and they choose, you know, a buff from, you know, the wolf and stuff like that. So similar to a druid, when you're choosing your buffs from your different boons, you get to choose 2 different types that you can lock in, 2 different passives. So you can lock in Jaguar, Eagle, or Jaguar, Jaguar. Honestly, you could just go all in. That's what I did. And when you're locking that in, that's really kind of changed. That's really setting the pace for how your class is going to play. One thing that's really, really interesting about the Spiritborn class, which you don't get in a lot of the other classes really, is almost every ability felt like it had a charge. You had 3 charges or 2 charges on certain abilities. Even your ultimates had 2 charges, which made it really interesting because it kind of felt like you could use your ultimate a lot more. With a lot of other classes, you really needed high CDR to be able to really get your ultimates off as much as possible. But with the Spiritborn class, your ultimate had charges. My dash had 4 charges, and then when I used my 4th charge, it would reset my charges, right? My basic attacks had a 3-hit combo, and you had aspects to make it a 4-hit combo and do a second strike. You had a bunch of your eagle abilities that had charges, where you could throw kind of quills and like feathers, I guess, like lightning feathers, and you had a lot of charges there. Rather than being stuck without your cooldowns, you always kind of have them. And I'm not even sure how that's going to work when you have a max level character with high CDR, but it's probably going to be insane. Like when I was playing the Jaguar class, when I was playing the Spiritborn Jaguar avatar, I literally couldn't hit my buttons fast enough. I swear, there was always something to press, which was really, really fun. Spiritborn is also getting 2 brand new weapons as part of the class. The 2 new weapons are Glaive and a Quarterstaff. Glaive is damage to elites, solid, of course, and Quarterstaff is chance to block. And I saw in the skill tree there was crit damage multipliers based off of block rating and block chance. So you can up your block chance to do more critical strike damage, which was going to be really, really fun because you could mix in that heavy defensive gorilla potentially with Jaguar and their fast strikes and combo it up and serve it up with that beautiful extra crit multiplier, which is going to be really, really fun. The animations on the Glaive and the Quarterstaff with the abilities that they have are so insane. Out of all the animations, they all look beautiful, but what resonated with me animation wise, obviously Jaguar resonated with me in terms of gameplay because it was so fast, but in terms of animations and what just looked beautiful was the Centipede. You're throwing like these kind of like swings with your Quarterstaff or Glaive, and as you're swinging, you're kind of like spewing poison, and it just, I don't know, it just looked so freaking cool. So, if you're curious about how the release of Spiritborn will affect current gameplay and classes, I luckily got some questions to ask the Diablo devs, and they basically said this. What's going to happen, because it will happen, when somebody breaks a class and makes it and takes it too far? Are you guys going to kind of bring that down to reality or try to bring others up to that?
I think it depends on what we see.
Okay.
Right? Like, balance is one of those things that we can say we're always going to chase, but it's really about maintaining the fun without it breaking the game, right? And so we talked about this earlier. The amount of emerging builds that are going to happen as soon as this is out in the wild is going to be insane, and so we're going to have to take it case by case. But I believe the bottom line and the shipping version of this class is insanely fun.
Right.
It's very fast paced.
Yeah.
I think it is refreshing to a lot of the players who've been playing all the original classes, in a way that doesn't. I don't feel it's going to take away from the original classes, but definitely add something new.
Yeah. No, refreshing is probably the perfect word for the class.
Yep.
It is definitely refreshing.
Yeah, it's super customizable too.
Yeah.
It's like a million ways to play it.
Thank you to the Diablo team for giving me this opportunity and sponsoring this video. Thank you very, very much. It was a freaking blast.
Help me purge the evil here.